Mine might be a little bit of a contrast because I think a lot of what I realize is that law and economics are my thing, and a lot of the more health and the well-being and the care side of some of this work this year was some of the most challenging. But I wrote up a little reflection, and I hope it's not too dry, but we'll see how I do on time. And I have some more thoughts on capacity building, but we'll see where it goes. So I hope to share with you some of my experiences as an AmeriCorps public ally in Cincinnati with the Community Building Institute, or CBI. My partner organization was familiar to me as I graduated from Xavier in May of 2013, and CBI is a partnership between Xavier and United Way. The method by which this organization practices community development is asset-based, a model originally presented by John McKnight and Jody Kretzmann, the Green Book, which I've come to call my secular Bible. This method captivated me while I was at Xavier, and this past year provided me with the opportunity of implementing this theory, both intensively and on a comprehensive scale in close partnership with residents and local organizations. And under the guidance of Ms. Atkins, it was nonprofits, community-based organizations, public and private sector, so it was a nice spread. And kind of challenges some of that rhetoric you hear of nonprofits versus companies or businesses, because in our work, you know, the businesses are just as valuable to us as any other nonprofit maybe. So coming into college 5 years ago, I held a lofty goal of learning how to set people up for success or to succeed. I don't know why that stuck out so much, but I just had the loose idea that if people could be set up to fail under specific and intentional decisions, conditions, and or structures, then people could equally be set up to succeed. Following my interdisciplinary Jesuit education from Xavier and experience working with CBI, using asset-based community development, and under the leadership of Evanston Community Council, has really confirmed that my initial goal was not lofty, but is incredibly pertinent to the lives of individuals experiencing conditions of persistent poverty. And I think that's something interesting about Cincinnati. It was kind of a smack in the face for me, is that you can see conditions of poverty in black and white communities. And I think what that did for me is alienates poverty from race and says, okay, what are the structures implicit in these communities, and what are the histories that have led these neighborhoods to their current conditions? And that to me is much more significant than one individual mouthing off to his boss and losing his job. You know, I think it'll go much deeper. But I was contracted to work with the Evanston Community Council under the guidance and leadership of its president, Angela Atkins. I had previously known Ms. Atkins for 3 years while serving on the Housing Committee as a student and community engaged fellow scholarship program requiring 10 hours of service each week at Xavier. However, I'd never worked with her in her office full time. She was definitely some of my biggest ups and downs as an ally. We worked really well together. Her leadership style is cultivated from growing up in Alabama in the late 30s and working as not only a social worker but as a school teacher. I would say that she's as stern as she is sweet, and she's twice as effective as either sweet or stern. I will confidently say that I worked with the most prominent African-American female leader in Cincinnati, a strong leader who voluntarily initiated and participated on projects and committees that have leveraged over $500 million in the past 10 years for the community of Evanston. My relationship with her will forever influence my understanding of resident leadership, and I'm indebted to her for that. With Ms. Atkins in my firm, I learned how to effectively communicate to City Council in order to secure subsidies for commercial and residential physical development strategies. It's one of my objectives. I worked with over 45 clients to create or update a resume, apply for social services, and/or get into school. I represented the financial interests of clients to their debt holders, from school loans to mortgages and property taxes, in order to establish affordable delinquent payment plans. I worked to organize 2 progressive community groups never aligned in Evanston before: the schools, which came Evanston Education Builders, and the churches, which is Evanston United Church Coalition. I was regularly told that I was changing someone's life and that they had never received the quality of individualized and personal care I could offer. In all, I created over 2,000 documents and sent over 500 letters to City Council, Memorial Day Parade sponsors and participants, and local community leaders. This has me leaning in the direction of social policy, working as an advocate, lobbyist, and a researcher, because it encompasses my intellectual desires, political interests, and social concerns. So that was kind of my reflection and some of my journey. I think I still have, how much more time do I have? 5 minutes? Okay, I figured I might have some extra. So these are just some odds and ends of lessons I've learned. One is just the inherent value of information. People would regularly tell me that I was changing their life, but I wasn't doing so with dollars. I was doing so with a conversation. And I would be a wealth of information for people. And as a consultant, information was the most valuable and encouraging product I could offer the residents with which I worked. However, I'm not built as a social worker, and providing care and well-being support was much more difficult for me than providing legal, financial, and strategic marketing / messaging support. And ran into that my last week. It was like a going away present, you know, because the challenges that a resident, right? I knew that we could set these things in place, but I also knew that that wasn't all this person needed, and they needed more care and well-being support that I was looking through, you know, my resource directories to find some social workers or somebody who knows, you know, support for seniors like I do not. And so that was kind of a wake-up call for me, just coming to play into your strengths, you know, kind of that, for whatever reason, the law and econ is serious, you know, but the ones, in my opinion, that do it really well are creating opportunities for other people to do what they do well. And that's been a favorite quote of mine lately. Has just been, may people strive to attain actually what they always were potentially. So, you know, let's allow people to change. We so often may want to put labels on someone, and that's very self-serving because it's a control factor. If I allow you to become the best possible version of yourself, that means that, yes, you might have a bad day today, but I'm not going to hold it against you tomorrow. You know, if you want to, you know, change your order, that's great. You know, as long as it's in your best interest, health and well-being, you know, I don't know why someone would not want to support that. And then I guess I'll dive into capacity building with these last couple minutes. A lot of people think that whenever I'm ready to volunteer with your organization, you should be so happy. But, you know, bringing on a new volunteer can create some work. And when you're in a position where I'm not allowed to do any direct service, I need to build capacities. You know, off the cuff, it might sound like, oh, you're helping people do better work. You know, that's a pat on the back. But I found that capacity building is really initiating conflicts. Because in order to build capacity, you must understand where an organization is, and then you have to meet them where they're at and take them or walk with them to the next level. And that means that you have to change things up. Sometimes that's using, you know, different types of technology. Sometimes it's changing an intake process. When you've done intakes the same way for 15 years and it's always been good, and then someone comes in and says, well, actually, you need to be doing it like this. And so that was just kind of a wake-up call for me, was that capacity building is great and is definitely needed, but it's not always the cleanest work. You know, it's initiating conflicts for the betterment of yourself and the partner organization.